Act had barely finished checking their orbital position when the first Imperial ships began emerging from hyperspace. His console erupted with warnings as massive vessels materialized around them, their weapons already charging. Multiple contacts. Hack squeaked, his paws flying across the navigation controls. I count 6. No, 8 Imperial dreadnoughts. And there's more coming. His ears swiveled as new alerts sounded. Fighter squadrons launching from the superweapon, at least 3 wings of Wasp-class interceptors. Through the viewport, Hack could see the massive form of the superweapon looming in the distance, its presence casting an ominous shadow over their small vessel. Below them, Buenos Terra's atmosphere rippled as more ships ascended, squadrons of Mantis-class heavy fighters rising from the planetary defense bases. Energy readings from all vessels suggest they are operating at maximum combat readiness, the AI reported. Their weapon systems are fully charged and targeting solutions are locked. We are effectively surrounded on all vectors. Jeb's hands were steady on the controls as he executed a series of evasive maneuvers. Killian, what are our options? Not good, Cap Killian growled from the weapons station. This ship's got teeth, but we're talking about a full battle fleet, plus fighter support from above and below. We're in a damn vice grip. Vex, still grieving the loss of Zeke, checked their shield status. Shields are holding, but we took a lot of damage during our escape. One good hit from those dreadnought cannons is all they need. Hack's whiskers twitched frantically as he calculated and recalculated possible escape routes. But with every passing second, more Imperial ships appeared, while the fighters from both the superweapon and the planet's surface drew closer, closing off their avenues of retreat. I regret to inform you, the AI announced, that given our current power levels and the enemy force disposition, successful escape is statistically impossible. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the ship flickered to life. Empress Aria's face appeared, her cold beauty made somehow more terrifying by the slight smile playing at her lips. True of the broken promise, she began, her voice dripping with false warmth. You've led us on quite a chase. But now, finally, you have nowhere left to run. Hack felt his fur stand on end as the Empress's gaze seemed to pierce right through him. The woman who had ordered the death of her own family, who dreamed of galactic domination, now had them trapped between her warships, her fighters, and her planet's defenses. I'm offering you one chance, Aria continued. Surrender now, and I promise your deaths will be quick and relatively painless. Refuse, and she gestured, and the superweapon's main cannon began to glow with terrible energy. As the team exchanged desperate looks, Hack's mind began racing. Not with escape routes or tactical options, they were truly surrounded, trapped between 3 deadly forces and a weapon that could destroy entire worlds. No, Hack's thoughts turned to something else entirely. Something the AI had mentioned about the ship's power core. Something that might offer not an escape, but perhaps something far more important, a chance to strike one final blow against the Empire's tyranny. The Empress's hologram waited expectantly for their answer, unaware that the small, furry navigator was already formulating a plan that would change everything. As the others debated possible responses to the Empress's ultimatum, Hack fell silent, his small paws moving methodically across his console. The familiar motions of calculating trajectories and power readings helped steady his racing heart as a terrible plan began to form in his mind. AI, Hack whispered, barely audible over his crewmates' heated discussion. I need to know something about our power core. If we were to initiate a complete overload, what would the yield be? There was a pause, longer than Hack had ever experienced from the AI. When it finally responded, its voice was equally quiet. Based on current power levels and core specifications, a complete overload would generate an explosion comparable to a small nova. The blast radius would be significant. Significant enough to destroy that superweapon. Hack's whiskers twitched as he ran his own calculations. Another pause. Yes, though I feel compelled to point out that such an action would also result in our complete destruction. Hack nodded, his throat tight. Show me the escape pod systems. As the AI displayed the schematics, Hack's eyes darted between his crewmates. Jeb, who had given him a second chance at life, who had transformed him from a condemned prisoner into someone who mattered. He thought of Jeb's family waiting back on Julius 9, of his unborn child who deserved to grow up in a free galaxy. His gaze shifted to Killian, gruff and battle-scarred, but with Poppy waiting for him, their tavern a symbol of the peaceful life they'd fought so hard to achieve. And Vex, already devastated by Zeke's loss, but with so much life still ahead of her. They all had something to return to, someone waiting for them, but Hacked. Hacked had only the crew, only the ship. And sometimes family meant making the hardest choices. His paws trembled slightly as he accessed the pod systems, checking their cloaking capabilities. It would work. It had to work. Hacked Jeb's voice cut through his thoughts. "You've been quiet. Any ideas?" Hack's small frame tensed as he reached for his blaster, the weight of it suddenly enormous in his paws. He took a deep breath, steadying himself for what he had to do. "Yes, Captain," he said, his voice stronger than he felt. "I know exactly what we need to do." As he turned to face his family, blaster raised, Hacked silently apologized for what would come next. But he had made his choice. His final race would be one of sacrifice, not survival. The AI's words echoed in his mind, comparable to a small nova, more than enough to end the threat of Arya's superweapon. More than enough to give the galaxy a chance at freedom. And if that meant Hacked had to die, well, he'd been living on borrowed time ever since that first race anyway. Hacked Jeb's voice was filled with disbelief as he stared down the barrel of his navigator's blaster. "What are you doing?" "Saving your lives," Hacked replied, his paw steady despite his racing heart. His eyes flicked to a data readout on his console. "The Empress. She's on that superweapon. I can see her life signs clear as day, all her eggs in one basket." "Then we can strike together," Killian growled, starting to rise from his station. "As a team." "Don't move," Hacked squeaked, his voice cracking with emotion. "Please, don't make this harder than it already is." Vex's face showed dawning comprehension. "The power core. You're going to overload it, aren't you?" Hacked nodded, using his free paw to activate the escape pod sequences. "The explosion will take out the superweapon, and Arya with it. But someone needs to pilot the ship in close enough, keep them from realizing what's happening." "Like hell you will," Jeb said, taking a step forward. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself." "Stop!" Hack's shout echoed through the bridge, surprising even himself. "Captain." "Jeb, you have a family. A child on the way. Killian, you have Poppy. Vex, you have your whole life ahead of you." His whiskers trembled. "I'm just a small furry creature who was supposed to die in the races years ago. You gave me a life, a purpose. Now let me give it back." "There has to be another way," Jeb pleaded, but Hacked could see in his captain's eyes that he understood the logic, even if he hated it. "The pods are ready," the AI announced softly. "Cloaking systems are primed. They won't be detected. Everyone in." Now Hacked gestured with his blaster toward the pod access. "Don't make me shoot you, please." One by one, with tears and protests, his crewmates moved toward the pods. Killian went first, his gruff exterior cracking as he clasped Hack's shoulder. Vex followed, her face a mask of pain at losing another friend. Jeb was last, standing at the pod entrance. "Hacked, you're not just some small creature, you're family." "I know," Hacked replied, his own eyes welling up. "That's why I have to do this. Now go. Your child needs their father." The final pod sealed with a hiss, and Hacked watched on his console as they ejected, their cloaking systems rendering them invisible to Imperial sensors. His family was safe. Now he just had to make sure their sacrifice meant something. "AI," Hacked said, turning back to his console, "let's give the Empress exactly what she asked for. Open a channel." As he prepared to transmit their surrender, Hacked allowed himself a small, grim smile. The Empire had tried to kill him in the races. Now he would use everything those races had taught him about sacrifice, about friendship, about family to strike a blow that would echo across the galaxy. The Empress wanted the crew of the Broken Promise. She was about to get more than she bargained for. Empress Arya, Hack's voice was steady as he transmitted across the open channel. "This is the crew of the Broken Promise. We surrender." A wise choice. Arya's hologram smiled coldly. Proceed to docking bay 7 of the superweapon. Any deviation from your approach vector will result in immediate destruction. As Hack piloted the ship forward, he worked in perfect synchronization with the AI, preparing their final act. His paws danced across the console, initiating sequences that would ensure maximum yield when the time came. "They're scanning us," the AI reported quietly. "But they won't detect the overload preparations. I'm masking our power signatures." Hack nodded, his throat tight. "Thank you for helping me do this." "You know," the AI replied, its tone almost gentle, "when you first breached my systems at the spaceport, I could have stopped you. But I saw something in your crew, a purpose worth serving. I'm honored to help you finish this fight." The superweapon grew larger in their viewport, its massive form blotting out the stars. Hack could see the docking bay ahead, like the maw of some terrible beast waiting to swallow them whole. "Beginning final approach," Hack announced for the benefit of their listeners. Then, quieter, "Recording device ready." "Yes," the AI confirmed. "You may begin your messages whenever you're ready." Hack took a deep breath, his paws never leaving the controls as he started speaking. "Captain Jeb, I never told you this, but that day you chose me for your crew, I was planning to end it all. I couldn't face another death race. But you gave me purpose. You showed me what it meant to be part of something bigger than myself." He paused, swallowing hard. "Killian, you grumpy old warrior. Thank you for teaching me to fight, for treating me like I was normal-sized. Share a drink with Poppy for me, will you? And Vex, don't let Zeke's death or mine stop you from living. We died for a future worth having. Make sure you live it." The docking bay loomed closer. Imperial crews would be waiting, expecting to take them into custody. They had no idea what was coming. "Our core overload sequence is ready," the AI reported. "We'll have approximately 30 seconds after initiation." Hack nodded, his whiskers quivering slightly. "How many will we take with us?" "At minimum, the superweapon will be completely destroyed. The blast will also severely damage or destroy the nearest Imperial capital ships. And yes," the AI added, "the Empress will not survive." As they made their final approach, Hack thought about all the races he'd run, all the times he'd helped navigate the team through impossible situations. This was just one more race, but this time, crossing the finish line meant something different. "To the rest of my crew, those I call my family," he recorded his final words. "Thank you for giving a small, scared creature a home. For showing me what it meant to be brave, to be loyal, to be loved. Now go build that free galaxy we always talked about. Just remember me sometimes, okay?" The docking bay doors began to open, and Hack's paws tightened on the controls. It was almost time for his final navigation, his last great race. And this time he knew exactly where the finish line was. The ship touched down in the superweapons docking bay with a gentle thud. Through the viewport, Hack could see squads of White Guard assembling, their pristine armor gleaming under the harsh bay lights. Behind them stood a contingent of Imperial officers, their uniforms crisp and expressions smug. "Docking complete," Hack announced over the comm. "Awaiting further instructions, Empress." "Remain in your ship," Arya's voice commanded. "A boarding party will secure you momentarily." Hack's paws moved swiftly across his console, finalizing the last preparations. "AI, are you ready?" "Yes," the AI replied softly, "though I find myself reluctant to end our partnership. You are a remarkable being, Hack." A small smile crossed Hack's face as he watched the White Guard approach. "You're not so bad yourself, for a machine." "The overload sequence is synchronized with my core systems," the AI continued. "When you give the word, I will ensure maximum yield. Nothing will stop the chain reaction." Hack nodded, then opened a final communication channel. This one wasn't directed at the Imperials, but at 3 cloaked escape pods far behind them. "Hey everyone," he began, his voice soft but steady. "If you're wondering why I did this, well, I learned it from you. All of you. You taught me that sometimes winning isn't about crossing the finish line first. Sometimes it's about making sure others get to race another day." He took a deep breath, watching as the boarding party reached the airlock. Jeb, when your child asks about me someday, tell them their Uncle Hacked helped make the galaxy safe for them. Killian, I left a bottle of Zeta 9 whiskey in my quarters. The good stuff. Share it with Poppy. And Vex. I saved one of Zeke's medals from the palace. It's in one of the bags in your pod. I threw it in after you. He'd want you to have it. The airlock began to cycle. They were almost out of time. I want you all to know, Hacked continued, his voice thick with emotion, that these last few years have been more than I ever deserved. I was supposed to die as a nameless prisoner in those races. Instead, I got to live as part of a family. Got to matter. Got to make a difference. The inner airlock door started to open. So don't mourn me too much, okay? I'm not afraid. I'm just finishing my last race. And this time Hack's paw moved to the final control. This time, I know exactly where the finish line is. He cut the transmission just as the White Guard entered the ship. Behind them, he could see Empress Aria herself, resplendent in her imperial regalia, come to witness their capture personally. Hack's whiskers twitched one final time as his paw tensed over the control. Time to show them how a racer crosses the finish line. In the name of Empress Aria, the White Guard commander announced, stepping onto the bridge, "You are hereby." Hack's paw slammed down on the control. Now, AI. The ship's power core began to whine, a high-pitched sound that quickly rose beyond hearing. Aria's eyes widened in sudden understanding, but it was already too late. "No," she screamed. "Stop them." "It has been an honor," Hacked, the AI said calmly as energy began to cascade through the ship's systems, initiating final sequence. The White Guard raised their weapons, but Hacked just smiled. His paw found the small hologram of the crew he kept at his station, Jeb, Killian, and the rest of the crew, all of them smiling after winning their first major race together. Time seemed to slow down. In his mind, Hacked was back in that first race, terrified but determined. He could hear Jeb's voice guiding him, feel the thrill of his first victory. He saw every moment that had led him here, every race, every battle, every quiet evening with his found family. The power core's overload reached critical levels. The ship's hull began to glow from within as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Warning, the AI announced to the horrified Imperials. Core detonation in 5. Aria turned to flee, but there was nowhere to run. 4. Hacked closed his eyes, holding the image of his family in his mind. 3. The ship's hull began to fracture, pure energy spilling through the cracks. 2. "Oh, wait. Goodbye," my friends, Hacked whispered. 1. In the vast darkness of space, 3 cloaked escape pods carried their precious cargo to safety. Their occupants watched in stunned silence as a new star briefly bloomed in Buenos Terra's orbit. The superweapon, along with dozens of Imperial capital ships, vanished in a sphere of pure energy that lit up the night like a supernova. When the light faded, nothing remained of the superweapon, the Empress, or the small, brave navigator who had sacrificed everything to save the galaxy. But far below, in a dingy tavern in the lower levels of Buenos Terra, a group of civilians who had been watching the sky began to sing. The song spread from street to street, then city to city, and finally planet to planet. It was a song about freedom, about sacrifice, about a small furry creature who had struck the final blow against an empire. And somewhere in the void, as his atoms joined the cosmic dance of the stars, Hacked had crossed his final finish line. He had won his last race. The galaxy was free. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.